Hello. It is time again for all of this to go down. I have gotten off a fast. I'm upping my fasting regimen a little bit, somewhat. And the reason is this: when your body doesn't have to digest food, it has all kinds of energy to rebuild the body. Now, in this crucial time we're living in, all these new light codes and frequencies and energies coming from all over the place hitting this planet, your body has to integrate that into your body and into your new light crystalline structure. Okay, so if it doesn't have to digest food for a period of time, I fast for 4 days. For a period of time, it has more energy to devote, to concentrate really on transforming your body and integrating and assimilating, absorbing these new light frequencies that are going to change you as a person in a way. So, given that, that's why I'm going to up my maybe five a year. I did 3. I was doing 3, maybe 5 a year, maybe every 3 months, 4 a year, something like that. Every 2.5 months, it's going to help that process. Okay, so that's why I'm doing it, and you think about how you want to handle it. And if you don't fast, even intermittent fasting or just being careful of what you eat, we'll go into diet at some point. I have an excellent diet. We'll go into that at some point along the line here of what I do, and I don't think we have to overdo it. You know, there's a few simple things you have to think about and roll with that. You know what I mean? We don't have to. Some people, the dietitians or some of these people into nutrition, it's all they can talk about. You know, I was with a guy one time out of Santa Cruz that he was so specific about the whole thing that I knew he was missing the point in a way. You know, that it's not the thing. It's an important cog, but it's not the thing. These guys talk about it if it's the thing, the absolute thing. Okay, now we were talking about. Let me finish up something really quickly here. As we put ourselves out there sometimes, and we don't get a result, or we get slapped down, or pushed away, or I don't want any of that thing. We get it's painful. All right, I experienced pain. I was trying to kiss this girl's hand out of appreciation for who she was. And we feel weak. In that pain, we feel vulnerable and we feel weak, and we take it as a weakness, and we've got to get away from that. As we go forward here, as we become more heart-centered beings, as we become settled in our heart, we're going to want to reach out more. Life will ask that we reach out more in these instances, not less, and leave ourselves open. So how can we mitigate that so it's not quite as bad as it need to be? And that's one way of doing it, or just one of the first steps. Honor the pain, okay? Don't accept it and accept it as your own. Take charge, take responsibility for it, take ownership of it, and allow yourself to honor it and to not think of it in the same way we have in the past of wanting to shunt it aside as an example of how weak we are as people or as a person, okay? That's what, we all do that, we it's an awkwardness. It eats at our confidence, things like that. And one of the things we can do moving forward is honor that pain, sit with it, okay, and acknowledge it, accept it, allow it, and surrender to it. And those types of things will be very profitable in trying to handle that sort of pain. The pain didn't last long. Like I say, it was about 4 or 5 hours when I felt that. It's ways of assimilating and kind of getting it to dissolve. That's one way of doing it. I think is honor it, and don't shunt it aside as something unwanted. Honor the emotional pain. It's who we are. Really, it's to be able to feel pain, emotional. There are other factors involved here, and we'll get into those. But accept it and be okay with it, really, and not wanting to deny it or think of it as a weakness that you're exhibiting. And then the other thing is always, especially with this little kid, Lito, I was explaining to you, and the parents going off the way they did, always respond in kindness and carefulness, okay? That is, a matter of fact, anytime anybody comes at you in hurtful ways or low vibrational ways or ways that you don't feel as though are commensurate with where you're at as a person, always respond in kindness and care. Yogananda said this. He said that when he came to America, people would come to him and be unkind, treat him unkindly, rudely, say mean things, because you're going to run into that stuff. And he said he always responded in kindness and carefulness, okay? And as he continued to do that, not get involved in that tit for tat, I'm going to get you now, that whole thing, he found himself bouncing out of the frequency of this 3D world, this tit for tat 3D world we have going on that says that, if you get treated rudely, you must show yourself to be strong and respond strongly, that whole thing. As you respond firmly but kindness and carefulness, as you respond in those ways, you begin to remove yourself from this tit for tat 3D frequency into something better and something more stable. You start becoming in the world but not of it. That phrase and that term we hear so often. That's what he said, and so if we do want to become in this world but not of it, that means more of a pillar of light through this as we move through this world. The more stable way of doing that is keeping our center, keeping our kind, careful center. And what allows that to happen is a certain tender-hearted quality we become as we get into the heart and out of the mind, as we take apart this mind, magnetize this mind, magnetize the heart, and our consciousness is going to slip down there and we'll become a heart-centered human being. And that's paramount in that desired result is always trying to be kind and careful about the people we have around us. When I told you that story of me taking a mushroom trip, being on the other side of it, that calmer space from that spiritual ecstasy that you're treated to, and I met this lady on the end of a bench, and I slid over to her, and I could tell she was in trouble. And I tried to talk to her in kind, wonderful ways, because, like I said, that's what you want to do. Supposing at that point she would have said, get away from me. I don't want to talk to you, get away from me. Well, supposing she would have said that, what then? And I can tell you this, in that tender-hearted, kind carefulness that you become this light, you become love, you become a new being, love at that point. In that space, it wouldn't have been so hurtful in a way, because you have this sort of spaciousness within that allows those things not to penetrate, really. And it doesn't penetrate, and it is cushioned by this sort of inner spaciousness where you can contemplate that sort of reaction and not take it personally. Okay, take it, look at it impersonally and say, okay, well, that didn't work. The pain level, although we're more expanded and our hearts are open at that point, the pain level isn't quite the same, because we have that space, that inner space within us that allows us, if someone is yelling at you, in other words, if you're in that space and someone yells at you, and normally you would want to yell at them back if you were in the 3D frequency consciousness, but in this space you can go, that guy over there is calling me a name. Okay, well, I've got to kind of try to deconstruct that. Okay, I want to. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to do my normal stuff. I'm going to go over to him and kind of find out what his issues are and deconstruct that his mental attitude. That's taking responsibility, as I was speaking about earlier, about things that happen in this 3D world if you're a little bit more enlightened. All right, that's what taking responsibility of it means, is to respond in a careful, kind way, even though you're being fed negative vibes. Respond in a careful, kind way. That has you being a mitigator of these things and always taking these things upward, not downward. Okay, upward as far as response goes, and kindness and carefulness, and not downward into further yelling and screaming and who knows what else. Really, it can get hairy fast sometimes, and that sort of thing happens. So that's what Yogananda said: is stick with kindness, courteousness, carefulness with those around you. That's what I ended up with last video, and that's what I'm just returning to right now for a moment here. As we become more alive with tenderheartedness, which is, like I say, of all the things that I experienced on an expanded trip, on a psychedelic trip, this tenderhearted quality that I had run into, that has an aspect of humility to it also. And that, when you get that combination, because we really don't know. We think humility, but we don't really know a lot of times what it feels like. Then you're in the middle of it. You become humility. You become this tender-hearted quality. And that is one of the biggest riches you could ever have. I swear to God, it's a very, very powerful place to be. It truly is. Now, when I say powerful, we don't think of tenderheartedness and humility as a power place to be. When we think of in the 3D world, we think power of demonstrated power and that sort of powerness, but the reason why tenderheartedness and humility is so powerful is because you're no longer afraid anymore. Okay, you have nothing to hide anymore. Okay, you're not worried about being toppled or teetered because you're very, very centered, and you're not afraid anymore of life, and you step into things more. You're naturally more bold in a way. Like I say, it's a hard thing to imagine those tender-hearted humility as boldness, but truly it is bold because you're not you want to connect with people more. It's your nature to connect with people, not when you're in your mind where it doesn't seem as though it's your nature to connect with everybody or a lot of people you want to meet. So that's why it's such a powerful place to play. You're not afraid anymore. You don't have anything to hide anymore. All those wonderful qualities of earnestness, sincerity, genuineness, authenticity, all of these things come out of you, and you become these things as in a natural way. And it really, everything then is to the good. That's when you get into the place where there's nothing to lose anymore. There's everything to gain from continue making these life-filled connections because of that lively tenderheartedness that you feel as though you found a little bit of home, or a lot of home. You feel as though you're home when you're in that glorious tender-hearted space as you deal with others. All right, and it's a very, very powerful place to be, and it's what we're all looking for, even though we may not know it. I just stumbled across it. I didn't know too much about stuff like that, but this is, when I'm 18, 19, 20, 20, right around there. I didn't, but that's what I came across, and it was a very, very powerful. It was the first time I felt secure in my whole life, essentially, truly, it's quite a place to be, and that's why we're all interested in getting out of this head and into these finer qualities, finer things of the heart that remain just concepts as we think of the words in our heads. But as we become them, it's a whole new ballgame. Now, as we become this tenderheartedness, and we become light, and we become love, and we begin to beam this from our being to others, that's going to mitigate pain, emotional pain, as we expose ourselves even more to those around us. Okay, how painful can something be, and emotionally, in a rejective sort of a way, if you're beaming love? You know what I mean? How painful can it be? I'm not saying that there will be no pain, because once again, we are opening our heart. We shut down our heart for a reason, protection against pain and things like that. As we open it up, there's no reason to think that there's not going to be that exposure awakened again. But with these new tools, with these new tactics, we can. It's not the same. It won't be the same. Okay, especially as we begin to beam love and beam light from our core of our being, beam tenderheartedness and carefulness of those around us. How much can things hurt in that state? You know, it really is a sort of a common sense of thing. So that's what we're headed toward, and that's why we want to get there. Okay, life becomes real. You know, life in the mind is kind of, is this real? Is this where I really am? Is this where I really think? Your things bounce around your head. Who cares? You know, reality comes from the heart. You know, that's where the real reality begins to sit in. Okay, not this place we're living in right now with our head the way it is. Another thing too, if we do things seeking validation or some sort of egoic need, that's going to have another layer of pain about it. That's a pain that's created by us. That doesn't have to be. Now, I think normally, in a human sensitive sense, there's a valid pain, really, you know, a valid pain in a sense, and there's an invalid pain. If you're seeking validation, or you have some sort of ego need for some outcome or some recognition, that's going to add to layers of pain as we expose ourselves like that. So you do well. Make sure. Oh, that's another thing. The state I just described to you is extremely self-validating. You no longer need validation from anybody else. You are validated just by being that tenderheartedness, by being that carefulness, by being that love, becoming that beam of light. Okay, that's validation. You no longer need validation at that point. So that's going to be another pain lessening factor. I didn't need validation from this girl that on that occasion. I wasn't seeking validation. I didn't need it, which is, you know, good. Supposing I did, that would be an even probably a sharper pain. But it was just a gesture that had come from within that I wanted to do. So there was no validation involved. And I've largely, greatly diminished the necessity of validation in my life as I've made spiritual progress. You are too, I know it. And I know that you'll do that further as you practice spiritual skills and practices. You need less and less and less validation from the outside world. I haven't completely solved that. If I cook something and then there's people around, I go, oh, that's good. Isn't that great? That whole thing. Tell me how great that it tastes. So there's still that sort of thing. But in the heart state, in the center-hearted state, heart-centered state, you don't need validation like you need as a prisoner of the mind. Okay, and so we all know that is a false concept of needing validation from others. We know there's all kinds of ego needs involved in our interactions with others, and we all know and understand they're for the most part false. They're just mirrors of a low vibration that needs that sort of thing, that of a being that really doesn't know itself and doesn't know really truly who they really are. So as we become a more genuine, authentic, heart-centered being, all those things are going to correct themselves in a very real way. So that must be always to the fore. Okay, all those things come to the fore: genuineness, sincerity, earnestness. You're earnest. How much earnestness do you run into these days, or sincerity do you run into these days? Huh? Not much. Really, everybody's being a wise ass, or they're being a product of the general attitudes that are pervasive in the culture. But very few sincere, honest, sincere people. I've met a couple sincere people, and it's quite something that they're that way. It's quite attractive, and it's a lost art that we're going to be rebirthing here as we go ahead. That's how we mop up the issues that I've been, those two incidences that I've been talking about. Is we learn how to take responsibility for them and get them going always in the up direction, always toward the higher vibration. Okay, so we become then missionaries of always seeking in every situation we're in to keep that vibration going upwards and not in the wrong direction. Okay, and that becomes more apparent and easier as we become more of a heart-centered human being. It's a gradual process, and it's a come and go process. I think probably it comes and goes until you've solidified and you get there and you stay there, and you notice now all of a sudden you're a heart-centered human being and you're no longer a a mental prisoner in your own mind. How wonderful is that? I think maybe we hold it right here, but there are some good ideas, good ways that a heart-centered human being begins to handle the things around him in an interpersonal sense, as opposed to a prisoner of the mind being doing the normal tit-for-tat, egoic, needy, needing validation types of things. No authenticity, no sincerity, no earnestness, no genuine qualities, or less so. Let's say it's a combination. All this is always a combination. There are some people who have better combinations than others. But that's how we begin to respond to the world, take the egoic agenda out of it, okay? And we become missionaries of light, okay? And always get interactions going upward. Always find the place of harmony. Always find that place, even though it seems difficult to do. The liberal, conservative, political atmosphere we're living in, there seems to be no harmony there. Okay, and how there we could find harmony there if people were sharp enough, because there are areas in which the left is right, and they're wrong. There are areas in which the right is right. There are areas in which they're wrong. Okay, but take those right areas and find if they can get out of their stinking minds and quit being thought robots. There are ways we can find things that we can begin to work on together that everybody realizes has to happen. It's always seeking that harmoniousness, always looking for the harmony, even though it doesn't seem as though initially that is there to be had. Okay, so that is going to be it. I think that's pretty good. So as we move forward together here, as we move forward into our new world, into our new self, these things we talk about, these things we converse about, and we want to have a good time. We want to have a look at it like it's something we get to do, not something we have to do. Well, something we get to do. All right, that's what we want to do. So let me check my notes here. I think that's going to be pretty good. And we want to be more bold, okay? And the way we are more bold is tenderheartedness, okay? And love, and carefulness, and kindness. That's where we're going to find our boldness, okay? Funny thought of the day, I had 2 views on my last video, 2 views. I didn't think that was possible, that's a funny thought of the day. Now, when you initiate anything, you always have to have backup plans. Okay, so my backup plan didn't conclude me having 2 views at this point. I had a deal with my guides, my guardians, my angels, my everybody around me. Everybody has it more than they realize. I thought the deal was I get this going and they go out and get people to watch it. Okay, that's what we had the deal I had going with my guides and angels and guardians, and but apparently it doesn't work that way, or that they've gotten a little lazy over the years, because I take responsibility for that. I haven't really been a big actor in anything, so they've probably gotten a little lazy, maybe a few bad habits, but. So what's the backup plan? And we'll just have to find a way, advertise in one way or the other. I'm looking at videos that have, what to do to increase your numbers, that sort of thing. But my plan one isn't working very well, and we're going to have to come up with another way. But I'm surprised that I only have 2 views on this one. I finally got a 3rd view, so on and so forth. But it doesn't discourage me. I don't care. This whole thing, there's a lot of things that this thing is servicing and I'm doing right now, and not the least of which, this is an application. This is an employment application for the world that's coming. Okay, that I want to be a voice, and I can be a good voice. And I want everybody to know that, including the people that are around this planet right now watching this whole thing go down. My name is Jeff Africa. I'm a citizen of Earth. I'm a loyal patriot of the United States of America, and I stand unafraid. And these 4, Divine Mother, Paramahansa Yogananda, Joshua Ben Joseph, and Mother Earth, they're the ones that are going to get me through, get me to my heart, become a heart-centered being, and make me become more bold than I am right now, because I have nothing to fear when I do become a heart-centered human being. And don't you forget that. All right, thanks. I'm turning you off, and I'll be seeing you soon. Bye.